Welcome back to everyone's channel. I'm wishing for a day full of Christ's grace for everyone. To ensure you don't miss any updates, we hope you like this movie and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Come along for the ride as you watch this film through to the very finish. We examine one of the most important and poignant moments in modern history, the passing of Pope John Paul II, in this video. With his departure, the world mourned the loss of a revered spiritual leader as well as the end of an era. Few people are aware of the profound last words he uttered on his deathbed, "Déjame ir al Padre," or "Let me go to the Father." Despite the fact that many are aware of his accomplishments and influence as the leader of the Roman Catholic Church. These remarks, which were not well known until recently, were a potent expression of his profound belief in eternal life and his calm acceptance of death. Prior to contemplating those last moments, however, it is crucial to comprehend the extraordinary life and legacy of Pope John Paul II. He was a man whose influence reached far beyond the walls of the Vatican and affected people all over the world, irrespective of their religious beliefs. He led a life marked by great compassion, spiritual fortitude, and an unwavering dedication to upholding human dignity. Let's explore his life, his last days, and the enormous influence he had on society. Born on May 18, 1920, in the Polish tiny village of Wadowice, Pope John Paul II was no stranger to adversity. He had already lost his sibling and both of his parents by the time he was 20. These early setbacks had a significant impact on his life's course, strengthening his spiritual beliefs and compassion instead of hardening him. Growing up in a deeply religious Catholic family, young Carol experienced a profound spiritual connection with God at a time when the destruction of World War II was tearing apart his own country. Under Nazi occupation and then communist administration, Poland turned into a hotbed of political unrest as well as personal unrest. Wojtyła attended seminary in secret while working at a chemical industry and quarry to evade deportation by the Nazis. His sense of obligation to defend what is fair and just started to solidify throughout these early years. He thought that hope and light might be found in faith during difficult times. Following his ordination as a priest in 1946, Karol Wojtyła would rise to prominence within the church. His ascent was rapid, and in 1958 he was named Krakow, Poland's auxiliary bishop. He soon gained the reputation of being among the most intelligent persons in the church thanks to his intelligence, empathy, and interpersonal skills. As the first non-Italian pope in more than 400 years, Karol Wojtyła made history in 1978 when he was elected as Pope John Paul II. His election was a turning point for the world at large, as well as for the Church. In his role as Pope, he worked to remove obstacles and close gaps between individuals of various racial, religious, and national backgrounds. Until his passing in 2005, his pontificate was marked by his unceasing pursuit of human dignity, peace, and interfaith understanding. John Paul II, the Pope, was renowned for his profound empathy and ability to relate to individuals from diverse backgrounds. On his first trip back to Poland as Pope, he was a major inspiration to the Polish people to rebel against the communist government. His presence contributed to the Solidarity movement's growth and, ultimately, the collapse of communism in Eastern Europe. John Paul II's leadership had a significant impact on world politics that went well beyond the sphere of religion. His was a voice of moral clarity, constantly fighting for the rights of the impoverished, the downtrodden, and those impacted by injustice and conflict. Among the most notable features of his pontificate was his prodigious travels. John Paul II traveled to almost 100 countries during his pontificate, sharing the love and peace of Christ with millions of people. Because of his capacity to relate to people from all walks of life, he became a globally adored figure. May 13, 1981, was a pivotal day in the life of Pope John Paul II. Mehmet Ali Agca, a Turkish shooter, shot him in St. Peter's Square when he was mingling with pilgrims, seriously wounding him. The world was stunned by the assassination attempt, and many people assumed the worst. But the Pope survived and recovered remarkably after undergoing emergency surgery. One of the most remarkable acts of forgiveness in contemporary history transpired after that. Pope John Paul II met and pardoned Agca, his assailant, even though Agca almost killed him. People all throughout the world responded favorably to this act of kindness and reconciliation, highlighting the Pope's conviction that even the most severe wounds may be healed. While he continued to preach the virtues of mercy, reconciliation, and love in the face of hatred and violence, this act of forgiveness became a fundamental motif of his pontificate. His physical struggles in his last years, along with his personal agony, served as a symbol of his unwavering spiritual strength. Pope John Paul II was identified as having Parkinson's disease in the early 1990s. This degenerative neurological condition progressively compromised his physical capacities. Even with the obvious toll the illness took on him, the Pope performed his job with incredible fortitude and tenacity. Even while he clearly had physical difficulties during his public appearances, especially in the early 2000s, his hands trembled, his speech was delayed, and his physique weakened. His spiritual resolve never wavered. Pope John Paul II's illness did not lessen his power. On the contrary, it increased public respect for him. He turned into a resilient icon, proving that one's religion can give strength even in the face of adversity. In addition to demonstrating the worth of life and the dignity of every person, regardless of their physical limitations, his decision to remain Pope in the face of illness also delivered a strong message. Pope John Paul II was hospitalized in February 2005 with flu-like symptoms that quickly got worse because of complications from septic shock and urinary tract infection. He insisted on carrying out his work despite his precarious health, even corresponding with Vatican officials from his hospital bed. But it was soon apparent that his condition was fast declining. Thousands of people gathered outside the Vatican, praying and hoping for a miracle as his situation deteriorated. The Pope spent his last hours in the company of his closest friends and assistants inside. In these last moments, he said the now famous words, "Déjame ir al Padre." His ultimate act of submission to God, his serene acceptance of death, and his steadfast trust in the hereafter were all expressed in this brief but significant remark. Surrounded by those closest to him, Pope John Paul II passed away at the age of 84 on April 2, 2005. With his passing, a chapter in history came to a close, and the world lamented the loss of a man whose life had been devoted to advancing justice, peace, and religion. Pope John Paul II's imprint is being felt today, not just in the Catholic Church, but also in society at large. More than 4 million people traveled to Rome for his funeral on April 8, 2005, making it one of the biggest assemblies of state and religious leaders in history. People of many faiths and origins expressed their grief and respect in overwhelming amounts, which was evidence of the great influence he had on the world. Pope John Paul II's influence, however, goes beyond the memories of people who were saddened by his demise. His writings, especially his encyclicals, remain influential in church doctrinal and moral discussions. His profound dedication to encouraging interfaith communication and mutual understanding amongst many religions continues to be a key component of the Vatican's current mandate. The thing that has probably endured the longest is his emphasis on God's divine mercy, which he promoted during his pontificate. In actuality, Divine Mercy Sunday, a day set aside to consider God's unending compassion and mercy for people, was founded by Pope John Paul II. Millions of people worldwide still find solace and hope in this legacy of kindness. It is thought Pope John Paul II composed a number of private letters in the weeks before his death. Many theories have been raised about these letters. Some claim they include spiritual advice for the Church's future, and possibly even prophecies regarding world events. The mystery surrounding the Pope's last days has only grown stronger due to the existence of these letters, the contents of which are still mostly unknown. It is clear, nevertheless, that a significant portion of Pope John Paul II's last hours were devoted to introspection and prayer. He was calm and ready to meet his Creator, according to those who knew him best. Just a few days before he passed away, he wrote his final letter, which served as a fitting epilogue to a life devoted to advancing love, forgiveness, and peace. It was a reminder to the world to believe in God's kindness. It's evident that Pope John Paul II had a profound and transformational impact when we consider his life and legacy. Let me go to the Father. His last words were a message of trust and hope for the entire world, in addition to being a personal farewell. Millions of people are still inspired by his life, which was characterized by resiliency, compassion, and an uncompromising dedication to justice. The effects of Pope John Paul II on the Church, his influence on world politics, and his message of mercy are still applicable now, just as they were when he was alive. His legacy is one of forgiveness, hope, and the steadfast strength of faith. I appreciate your participation in this trip. Your participation and presence give this investigation significance and influence. Until then, may the common narratives of our human experience serve as a source of inspiration and hope for you.